pragmatic is this plan? And does it address the unprecedented levels of crime in the country in the short run? On the spotlight is Dr. Maria Sally, a law scholar at Makerere University, Mr. Godbert Mushabe, a policy analyst, Honorable Medad Segona, the Busiro East MP, and Mr. John Ereso, former Member of Parliament for Kaberamaido. Gentlemen and lady, welcome to the show. You are on the spotlight. Let me begin with you from the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, Mr. Godba Tumushabi. The president seems to have talked about high-tech cameras, CCTVs, and electronic number plates, and this touch on the economy because you need some money to invest in this. And he has talked about CCTVs and all these kind of innovations for some time, really. If these are to be brought into play, it will take some time. Do you think the speech fell short of addressing the immediate responses to criminality in Uganda?
Yeah, no, I basically believe that the president missed the mark in terms of what he needed to address as far as the current level of crime is concerned, because you want to look at the situation in the country that is happening in terms of crime, look at it in terms of a value chain, that there are factors that accelerate crime, that lead to increase in crime. You have to identify those factors and then provide a set of solutions that deal with the root causes, the proximate causes, and then the consequences. And I think what the president did in that speech was mainly to dwell more on the downstream issues of crime has already been committed. So how do we make sure that we have increased our capacity to investigate and prosecute? And of course, in a broader sense, you can say, oh, if people who are you know criminally minded think that they can easily be caught, it's possible that that could be a deterrent. But of course, that's not how you fight crime. The way you fight crime is that you deal with the root causes and try to remove those kinds of factors that accelerate crime. I think that the president needed to come to Parliament and outline in broad terms a number of issues. One, he needed to tell Parliament and the nation what is the state of investigations on all these matters that have been going on, because there are several over the last 5 years. There are several of them. Two, how the families that have been affected would achieve justice, because he really kept silence about it. Three, he should have actually announced the formation of an independent inquiry, that because our security system, what you are seeing today is basically a consequence of a broken security system.
Are you talking about a commission of inquiry?
Some form of probably judicial.
Really? Are we not?
Essentially, the point is that we know that commissions of inquiry in this country do not mean a lot. But otherwise, if you have a broken system like we had, because remember that in the case of this country, you are not talking about ordinary criminals. You are talking about a situation where the head of the nation's police is in custody, and the accusation is that he was involved in crime. Now, that is not a simple matter that you just say, oh, we have arrested the criminals. No, you need to go into the entire system and audit and say, where did the system go wrong? Okay. And I think the president missed out on all the important
actually
things.
Talking about the former Inspector General of Police who has been arrested, I suppose arrested, and it seems not, I think...
So you don't know whether he has been arrested?
Well, if they haven't brought him to court, you guys are lawyers. If they haven't brought him to court, and nobody has applied for the habeas corpus,
it becomes a kidnap.
Yes, and he hasn't talked about him. Isn't that an issue, Honorable Medad Segona? That he doesn't, because people were anticipating to hear maybe, what does he talk about the former IGP?
Okay, first of all, thank you. I want to thank the president, finally, that he comes out because of the death of Andrew Felix Kawesi and Major Chigun, because he said he decided to get involved when those two were killed.
Yeah.
It presupposes that for those that were killed first, they did not matter a lot to this country. To me, they did. That's number one. Number two, it is about how institutions operate. One, that there is death and criminality was not detected. Two, that after some people are killed, the president comes out to say they were killed by idiots and the pigs. I think my brother, the Honorable Moizuche, brought it out well in Parliament, for those who had the opportunity to speak, that I have lost a relative killed by an idiot. I have a leader, and that leader cannot detect the criminality of an idiot. Two, that leader cannot arrest the true suspect. Kawesi was killed more than a year ago. I think close to 100 people were arrested. They are, some are in custody. They were arraigned in court. And a year after, they are still looking for the killers of Andrew Felix Kawesi. Now that is how our institutions work. It bothers me, obviously. And I must say, I have been a victim of Kaihura's bad policing methods. I was incarcerated for 8 days in different places, including in the bush. I shared custody with wild, you can say, snakes, etc.
Yes.
I was never presented in court until after 8 days. And after those 8 days, I was brought back to Kampala after touring the whole of Western Uganda and charged with sedition. Namboze has been in custody for a week, or more than a week actually, and she's accused of a misdemeanor called offensive communication under the Computer Misuse Act. She was given bond for one night, picked from hospital, admitted. She's in custody. She cannot access medical care in India as recommended by the National Medical Board. So the Kaihura method of policing, which is selective, partisan, and political, has had victims. I'm one of them. That notwithstanding, I wish him good luck, first of all. I want him to have justice that he denied thousands of Ugandans. Because to me, it's about standards. And a person, apart from a person who is not intelligent enough to know, everybody should be yearning for justice. I should be the last victim of a criminal police. So the point I'm making is, Kaihura, treat him in accordance with the law. Charge him, convict him, sentence him for whatever crimes. I know he could have 1,000 crimes. That's number two. Number three, what the president told us is very good to hear. He promised us these cameras at Kawesa's vigil more than a year ago. We've not seen them. He's the first security officer I have seen that discusses his security strategy in public. And that reminds me of my daughter. I have a daughter who was 3 years then, and we used to play, you call it hide and seek. Whenever he would say, oh, where is this girl? She would say, I'm behind the fridge. Now, the president has already told these criminals what he intends to do. You know, he talks about the electronic number plates. You know, electronic plates? Just this year, one very senior officer was being approved in Parliament. He came driving a vehicle with a falsified number plate. And now my president assures me that this one now is going to work. I think the problem is not even about anything else. It is about lack of selflessness. That the strategies that the president will come up with will all rotate on protecting his presidency. He concentrates security in some circles and creates a deficit in security in other places. The institutions are not allowed to work. I want to thank Martin Ochola, the IGP, and his deputy, my brother Brigadier Savit Mzei, who I understand is also related to the president. Unlike the...
So you're also related to the president?
Oh, I could be related to him. He's my brother.
Okay.
The president is my brother.
So you said
Christianity.
it in that line. Okay, I understand now.
The president is my brother in Christianity, and Sisi does not want to be a very old man, so we are contemporaries. The point I'm making is that Martin Ochola and Savit Muzei have not done what their predecessor would do. Run to the scene, make a statement, tell us these people are killed by ADF, which gives an opportunity to the suspects to run even further. Because whoever is looking for the killers is looking for ADF. The only identifying mark for the killers is as long as you're a Muslim. I have a young Muslim boy, about 21 years, at my house. Now, my son, aged 6, one day told him, "You man, I told you to cut off your beard. The police will arrest you and say you killed Kawesi." Now, the moment you start a religious profiling or any kind of profiling that the killers must be Uganda, the killers must be Muslims, the killers are ADF. Now, anyone who is not suspected to be ADF will walk away scot-free. Now, the measures that the president is proposing, first and foremost, you do not decree. I am in parliament. You come and tell me you have decreed, you have banned this, you have stopped bail, you have stopped bond, you have stopped the wearing of hoods like the one he came wearing. Now, he created fear in my mind that whenever I see a person dressed like the way the president was dressed, I may have to run away. So, you do not bring us decrees, do not stampede us. I remember at the vigil, at the Requiem Mass for the late Joan Kagezi, may her soul rest in peace. General Kale Kaihura came, and he was talking about the abolition, the amendment of the Constitution to abolish the 48 hours, saying we should actually be allowed to investigate for 90 days. The CJ came and said, "Look, man, don't cut down that forest, because when they pursue you, you may need that forest to hide." I am sure
it was
now.
Very prophetic.
Yes. Yes, I think it was Chenua Achebe. So, today, Kaihura needs that forest of the 48 hours.
Okay, let me bring in
more than anyone else.
Dr. Nasali here. Because if we go by statistics, women have fallen victim to the crime of kidnap and murder more than men. When the president spoke in parliament yesterday, did his speech resonate more at that gender perspective?
I think the president forgot that 51% of the population are women, and that women suffer from violence on a daily basis, right from our families, the household, and the fact that there were very many, over 30 heinous crimes, murder, coupled with sexual violence. And he very admitted that, like my colleagues have said, that it was the death of 2 men that prompted him to intervene. And even then, the measures that he has proposed are not measures that would benefit a majority of women. They're about establishing an infrastructure. A majority of ordinary citizens would not die of the bullets or armory. They're usually killed by hangers, iron bars, strangled. But what I would have wanted the president to say, as he rightly admitted, that he's an old man and that he should not be the one who is intervening in security issues. I would have wanted him to say that he's going to reaffirm the rule of law and have zero tolerance to violence, that he's going to equip the justice, law and order sector, just as he has invested humongous resources in security, but it has failed. He talked about the negligence of the citizens and the wananchi in terms of responding to crime. But I do know for a fact that people do report crimes, but they do not get the necessary legal response because one, the infrastructure may not be there. For example, with due respect to members of parliament here, he has created as many districts as Ugandans are unable to count. But in each district, you would find that there is a member of parliament, there is an ISO, there is an ISO, there is a sub-county member of parliament. But there are districts in this country which don't have even the lowest cost structure. And so they get frustrated. They have established, for example, in Yoweri district, they've established a police post which doesn't even have the resources to enable it to reach a scene of crime, that it has to be supported by the victims themselves or well-wishing civil society to cover the logistical expenses. So when the country feels that the law doesn't matter, they're likely to take the law in their hands. So you see incidents of mob justice. You also see incidents of violence. And we know that when there is insecurity, even at the household level, that insecurity is played on women's bodies. I have been in your district, and there was a land dispute. In that land dispute, the person, the neighbor, decided to rape the girl of the person they were having a dispute with, so that he can be detracted from the, perhaps move away. So we know that those incidents happen, and women are very vulnerable. I wish that he could pay attention to protecting the weakest and least empowered among us. That's why I do agree with Honorable Segona and also my brother Goodbar, that it is important to build the institutions. It's important to demonstrate that however powerful you are or however weak you are, at that material time when you interface with the law, you will be treated with equality.
Okay. Honorable Resu, the president stated that when he went to Entebbe to investigate the murder of women, he spoke to the landlady of the owner of the building where one of the women was killed used to have a business. That until he got information from that lady, that is when they were able to follow it up and then apprehend the assailants. But doesn't that really show a total breakdown of the police, that it had to take the chief executive of the country to go in the field, ask a landlady at a crime scene, and then that is when something is done? Will he have to go to Karamoja and Bundubuja and wherever crime is? Because if his lieutenants on the ground cannot do the job.
I want to start like this. First of all, good evening, viewers. I want to begin from the point where the address took place, so that we can get to all these details. I looked at the president's address as one of those addresses a person who took a very specific oath of office had to make. It is only a president who takes a presidential oath. And that oath is very specific and very clear. And he fulfilled that duty that day to meet the obligations of that oath. He is the one who is charged with the responsibility to protect and defend property and the lives of the people of Uganda. And therefore, that address very much fits into the demand and the command created by that constitutional provision. Therefore, we have to look at it from that context, first of all. Two, we also got to realize that when President Museveni addressed Parliament and the nation for that day, on that day, he could not say everything, and it was not also that address in itself meant that other laws and other functions of the state regarding maintaining law and order and security, for that matter, could all be spelled in that address. That address was only meant to cater for salient situations which arose are from circumstances of insecurity, but that did not mean the president should have said everything that should have been said to ensure that security is provided or law and order is prevailing in the country, because those institutions are already there and are expected to function and must function as such. Therefore, for us to, for one to say that you omitted this, you omitted that, you omitted that, no, those matters or those which were not mentioned are supposed to be covered by those institutions that are supposed to carry those functions and ensure that the safety of Ugandans prevails. Now, when I come to your question, that when the president said he had to go to talk to the other lady and that was when the culprit was apprehended, President Museveni is a practical president. And in matters of security, President Museveni is very alert and concerned for that matter. I would presuppose that the going by President Museveni to that crime scene was in itself a testimony of a person who is practical. And that did not mean that the institutions therein were weak. Maybe his presence there in itself provided a more momentum to make sure that the apprehension of the suspects was accentuated. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, there is this kind of tactic of the president whenever he's giving a speech. There are things that will always come repeatedly. Sometimes a speech can sound the same even in 10 years. He will take us to the Chwezi dynasty. He will take us to the Batembuzi. He will tell us the story of 500 years of Uganda, and this is the only time Uganda has been peaceful in a half a millennia. Was that necessary?
Yes.
That was necessary.
To me, I think it was necessary. For one reason why I think it was necessary, President Museveni provided a historical perspective of our journey, and it's necessary particularly for members of parliament. I'm sure Honorable Segona was particularly thrilled by that kind of.
Okay,
are you?
Are you hearing that as a leader?
Yes.
For the first time, did you hear that for the first time yesterday from him?
Frankly,
or even the second time, because he has said it always.
Yeah, because
so
there is nothing wrong in being repetitive, because Parliament is a dynamic institution. If he said it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, Honorable Segona might have not heard it. He was not a member of Parliament at that time, and he needs that kind of background information to know the journey of Uganda. I think President Museveni is on the spot, and I'm sure many people were excited all over the country to know the journey that Uganda has been through. I think that background fits essentially to give us an outlook,
John,
of how a country.
John, these things, you don't have to defend almost everything. You really don't have to, because you see, many viewers out there, my age mates and people younger than me, they want to listen to you, and they want to listen to the president and get reassurance and be given assurance that we are a country that is, even when we've fallen down, like we have had this level of crime, that we're able to come up and move forward. I think that's what people would want to hear from you. The president came and delivered this address. Because I was interested in the security, I basically sat down and listened through the speech. And so for the first 30 minutes, the president talked like he was actually speaking at a war college, talking about how we have invested in building our military and military infrastructure. But we are not in a war situation. This is a crime situation. This is a crime situation. This is not a war. You are talking about crime. Crime is different from war. In a war, you are fighting wars. Maybe they are internal, but in most cases you are fighting foreign enemies, foreign states.
Yes,
So,
Dr. Nasali has an issue.
Yeah.
If you can chip it in.
I want to build on what my brother is saying. The one thing that Ugandans were always appreciative of was the security. And in many times, Ugandans, we were poor, we underweight so many traumas as the country was recovering from the guerrilla war. But everybody said, Twebaka. Now that we cannot sleep, now that the country is actually collectively suffering emotional trauma, because you do not know whether you'll be able to reach your house, you do not know whether you will wake up alive, and that even if many people actually say you don't even bother to call the police, you do not know whether you will receive justice. So that emotional trauma must have been addressed. And telling us about the military, we don't have a war in our homes, or we don't have a war in the country. What we want to know is that the security of the person.
Okay, so maybe the investigation, Honorable Segona.
Well, it is with extreme difficulty, of course, that I'm compelled. I find the comparison to respond to what John said. The Honorable Eresu was a member of the CA when I was in Senior 3, and I followed him, his debate, especially on the federal issue. It's with immense respect, therefore, that I have to comment on this. First of all, I was not thrilled and excited.
You never got federal, so were you happy with it? Okay,
No, he presented what I would have presented had I been of majority age at the time. But the point I'm making is, well, I was not excited when the president started taking us into the history of the Batembuzi, the Bachwezi, etc. Of course, he's the least qualified to teach me history, which I have known and taught somewhere else before. One, we must not be enslaved in the turbulent history of this country. Someone to come and remind me how he saved me from Idi Amin, Milton, but they were not looking for me. They were instead looking for him. Two, I never paid my taxes to those people. I pay my taxes to Mr. Museveni, the person. He ate my grandfather's taxes, my father's taxes, my son's money, etc. And duty number one, as the Honorable Eresu mentioned, is to protect me. They were telling us that once you have a soldier guarding outside, then you are safe in your house. Now, I get out of my house, I find the soldier sleeping on the gun, and my son is killed, and you tell me that that person is still relevant to my life. And when he comes to justify his relevance to me, he tells me about the Batembus that he heard of, he never saw. The Bachwezi that he heard of, he never saw. I want to talk about practical solutions. Yeah. This one comes at after the death of my honorable colleague, the Honorable Colonel Ibrahim Abiriga. And when you come and tell me because you were a soldier, face value trust that because you were a soldier, I must trust you. No, you must demonstrate to me that by keeping you, the soldier, at the helm of my security apparatus, I'm going to benefit. If you have these idiots that can come and kill a colonel, guarded by a bodyguard who is an SFC soldier, tell me how safe I am. I do not have a stick, I do not have a pistol, and I must live and walk freely in this country. Then you blame all other people. You are the chief executive, you are the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you are the man in charge of all the guns in this country. They kill citizen 1, citizen 2, they send warnings, they come and execute their warnings in a country that has a president who is the commander-in-chief, and you're telling me he's a military general. I start questioning your credentials in the military, and I will start asking whether you have ever received any training, and I will ask you for your certificates. Why? Because you've not done it. 2, you have a president that has been around for 30 years. He has
33. Yeah.
He has deployed all his tactics. Okay? At the beginning, I used to think that maybe because we are safe in Uganda, Uganda is safe. Until I crossed Karuma, until I crossed to Teso, and saw what was happening there. Now you come and tell me, I have fought many wars. I am going to win this one. Or these ones, they are taking a big risk. Yes, they know. And let me also tell you, by the way, and that's what where I agree with my sister, Dr. Nasari. The only thing that can keep us safe, all of us together, are systems. Yeah. There must be systems that keep us safe. As long as the president stops thinking about himself first, okay, we are not safe.
Honorable Resu, we know towards Chogam, there was a procurement of CCTV cameras for Kampala, for example. Is there an audit that has been done to show what these CCTV cameras have done? For example, recently there was a murder at one of the topmost hotels in town, and another one, and in between those hotels, actually, you have even a state house. And you wonder, I'm sure there should be CCTV cameras there. They haven't done the job. They were bought in 2007 for this city. What have they done?
You see, when we talk about closed circuit stereo cameras, it was not only procured because of Chogam.
Well, at least that's when they were given more.
There are so many CCTV cameras everywhere. Even in private homes, there are CCTV cameras. And I'm sure maybe some of us even have CCTV cameras. The question is not about the CCTV cameras stopping crime. The question is about having machinery to easily follow up a criminal act, of which CCTV cameras is one of them. So, when we have a CCTV cameras is one of those methods that can be used in modern technology to follow up a criminal who has, or I mean, a suspected or someone who has committed a crime. But in itself, a CCTV camera does not mean crime will all be detected. That is one principle that we must know. And we need it for one reason, that in many countries, CCTV cameras are everywhere. And I'm telling you, even in hotels, some homes, there are CCTV cameras. The question which is very important as a matter of principle is that how much do we have as Ugandans in form of capacity to get criminals? That is the most important, of which CCTV cameras, in my opinion, is one of those facilities that can be put in place alongside many others. That's how I look at it, and I'm sure that is what the president is anticipating. That even if we have CCTV cameras, we may not even get all the criminals apprehended and stop all the crime, but it would accelerate or it would enhance our capacity from where we are now. That's how I look at it. So when you bring in the issue of a crime in a room, there might have been like that one which happened in the hotel you're telling me about. There might have been no CCTV cameras in that particular room, or maybe they were not functioning. There is also that possibility. So you cannot, for example, say
if they don't function in Ambassador, they can function in Kabaramaido.
No. What I'm saying, they may not. I don't know what
the camera is not functioning.
I am not making a statement which is an overriding statement. I'm only saying in the event of, that is, they may not be there, or they may not. They might have been there, but they may not be functioning. Or maybe I don't know exactly the condition of that.
But let's listen from Dr. Nanasali. Then we take a break.
What is interesting, a number of parliamentarians, when they were commenting about the measures proposed by the president, they went back to the moral fiber. Many of them said, the CCTV cameras may work, the DNA may work, but however, it can be manipulated. It can, the country is riddled with corruption. It could get, innocent people into trouble. It could be used as a political ploy. Inherent in that is that a number of stakeholders have been calling for a national dialogue, for Ugandans to think afresh, what does it mean to be a Ugandan? I think that is what is lacking now. We know we have to get back to the drawing board and say this is the only country that we have. Otherwise, he's rightly said the CCTV cameras may not have been working in the room, or they might have been stopped to work had they
may not
been
even
working.
be there in the room.
That, you know, we cannot
They might have been.
simply
No,
police
it's
ourselves to that extent. There is
Okay.
necessity to really put Uganda first.
Dr. Nasali and gentlemen, let's take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Honorable John Eresu, Dr. Maria Nasali, Honorable Medad Segona,
Lubega.
and Mr. Godbert Mushabe. How can the government finally restore confidence of the public that is somehow seems to be paranoid that the police and the security apparatus, they are not doing their job? You think the speech yesterday restored that confidence?
To me, two things must be looked at from your question. One, you are trying to say that, in broadly speaking, has the confidence of the Ugandans gone so low to the extent that they no longer have trust in government in providing security? I think that is not true. This is a criminality which has got a very profound effect, because what happens shocks people. The manner in which it happens shocks people.
If I may pause there,
But,
they
yes.
kill 1, 2, 3 30 women
Yes.
in Entebbe,
Yeah.
and that does not shock Ugandans. They kill an Assistant Inspector General of Police in broad daylight, it does not shock. They kill a colonel and a member of parliament, it does not shock. They kill a prosecutor and does not shock. They abduct and kill, they ask for money ransom and they get it, and Uganda don't get shocked. Honorable Rasu, are you for real?
No, what I'm trying to say, which I think you interrupted me when I was
Yes,
developing.
because I had to.
Yeah, you have interrupted me before I finish what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that it is true, as I said, these killings are short. I mean, the manner in which they're executed is very profound in terms of giving people a sufficient shock. But the question is, after that, when it has all happened, does it mean now that Ugandans overall have lost confidence in government as that which cannot provide them security? I think that question can best be answered in one simple word. I think Ugandans need only one thing. They have not lost confidence, but out of this shock, they want an assurance that it should not happen. But by the fact that they say it should not happen means they have confidence in the government, but they want the government to make sure that this kind of thing does not happen.
But
that is different from losing confidence.
Did they have an alternative?
The question of alternative, what do you mean really?
That without a government, who else would provide security?
Yeah, well,
Yes, if they could have another institution that would provide security, did they have an alternative to the
But
government?
would there be any alternative when you have a country and a government?
That's the point.
No,
and you
you
are
see,
saying
the government is obligated to provide the security,
Which
because
it has
I said
failed.
it earlier. I said it earlier. I think, gentlemen, let's not lose focus on
Yeah,
what we are
the question,
discussing.
has it
What I'm
succeeded or
trying to
failed?
say-
One at a time.
One at a time.
Let's have
what
Honorable
I'm trying to say is that the question posed by Kamara here, that have they lost confidence in government, I'm saying no. But they want this kind of criminality to stop. That is different from losing confidence. That is, in fact, to reassert your authority over the government, that government, we have elected you, you are in government, please, we want this to stop. That does not mean you have lost confidence. It's different.
But let me remind you that the president at the funeral of Colonel Brega, he said the Ugandans were angry, they were hurting, they were shocked, that for him, he was confident.
Yeah,
You think they are confident like he is? But for him, he was confident.
And he qualified his confidence. He qualified it by saying, we shall defeat it.
but that's
That was the measure of his confidence.
Has he
He was
ever
confident
considered-
by saying that, I know you are shocked, I know you are traumatized, blah, blah, blah. I'm equally sharing the same pain with you, in other words. But to me, on one hand, because I have the duty and the responsibility, I'm sure and I'm confident we shall be
Honorable
safe.
Resu, has the president ever conceded defeat?
Let me,
But you can concede defeat when there is defeat. But if you
Honorable
have
Segona,
Sir.
this was a very important speech we waited, all of us anticipated to listen to the president. But when I looked at in the house, I expected to be full capacity. Really, why is it that sometimes on an issue like this that concerns everybody, some of the members of parliament were missing?
I have listened to the president for the last 33 years. He has never listened to me. I just look forward to seeing him come to parliament to hear from us. That's number one. For the 33 years I've listened to the president, I have heard the same speech. Let me also tell you, the president, I think, I don't know whether he was overwhelmed or he was confused. At Abiriga's funeral, the president more or less incited violence against some of us in the opposition. Where you get a head of state, before investigations are concluded, he says, how come for us we are not killing opposition MPs? And I was shocked. I don't know whether someone gave him some that kind of speech to say, or the president himself was mischievous in making that statement. So he incited violence. 2, he concluded that the killers of Abiriga must have come from the opposition, and therefore MPs should be targeted. Number 3, when my honorable colleague John Eresu said people have not lost confidence, and he tells me that, you know, the cameras are part of the solution. 1, we have lost confidence. We're just subdued as a country. That the man will come, tell you a blatant, horrendous lie, and you have nothing to do about it because he has the gun, and you are not part of the other criminal gang that is killing so that you could also fight. The president has said cameras. Now let's talk about cameras and the drones. Who is going to man them? A starving police officer who is denied a decent salary, who is bound to by all the evils of corruption. Visit every police station today. You will find the OC station driving a brand new car by our standards, a brand new car. And when you ask for his salary, they will tell you 800,000. Okay? These are the people we have subjected to all manner of temptation, whose welfare is the worst, training is the worst, of late, have been subdued by the politicians of the ruling party. They are not facilitated to do their work. They are simply told to run to the scene of crime. You were talking about, I think Dr. Nassari was talking about the police stations in some of the upcountry places. Someone does not even have a motorcycle. You go to, all manner of facilitation denied to the police. I think I can only conclude by saying Ugandans have been denied a future. I have a friend of mine I joined law school with in '97. Before I entered here, I learned that he had been killed by these people, the Mutayimba wielding goons around town. And you tell me that the camera will save me. Let us be practical. I think we need to develop the point brought by Dr. Nasser. There are so many conditions that have contributed to this. The joblessness in this country, the hopelessness in this country, that is the financial hopelessness, and even it could even be the political hopelessness. As the president said at the scene of crime in Kawana, if it is true that Honorable Abiriga was killed by the ADF, I am only foretelling, because that's my name, Medad, according to the Bible. I foretell. If you have a country that has lost hope that I can have a democratic election, that in every election the army will come and participate to favor the incumbent, the police will be deployed as if it's an extension of the ruling party, that you have a president that is not about to retire after 33 years or 35 for that matter. He does not want to go. He will deploy the resources of the state, he will deploy the oppressive arm of the state to protect him. I can tell you, we are doomed. We have a problem. We do not react the same way. I can be oppressed by Mr. Museveni and I be civil. Kamara may not be civil. There must be hope that at the end of this electoral cycle, I should be able to compete fairly with Mr. Museveni and win.
Okay, Dr. Nasali.
That is not to say that the killers that I have concluded, I'm not like the president who concludes before investigations, that the killers therefore are political.
Yeah.
There are many other factors that are building this kind of thing.
Dr. Nasali, the criminality that we see, is it telling us the breakdown of the systems of our country? Is it as a result of the system breakdown?
I think we need to look at it in a very holistic manner, and I think Godba was talking about it at the beginning, that we have to look at the underlying causes, which is not only just the system. But if you understand, really, I'm very worried that if 78% of our population is under 30, and they are unemployed, uneducated, disgruntled, lack of opportunity, and used as tools in political contestation, they're likely to continue using the same methods that we have taught them how to act. Then if you look at the widening disparity, I mean, if you just go on the streets, you would marvel at the level of poverty, even in Kampala.
Yeah.
If you understand, I was reading the papers today and they were saying that 27% of Ugandans now are living under the poverty line. And then they see blatant extravagance and looting of public resources. All those are factors that contribute to criminality. If you look at the cultural values, I mean, if you don't get rich enough, then people feel that you're not quick enough, rather, then people feel that you're not hardworking. There are people on the streets on Kampala who say they're dealers. And that is, they're very, very proud to name themselves as that. But you know that a dealer doesn't work, but they make money. So we have introduced a culture of no work, a culture of disrespect for each other. I think we don't even care. So long as you're comfortable enough, you wipe out, you close your eyes to everything that is happening. We really need, I think, those stakeholders that are calling for a national dialogue are right. We really need to get back to Uganda and say, who are we as a people? What is it that we want? How can we redeem ourselves and each one of us contribute to our well-being? I know for the Nabagereka Development Foundation, we've coined a term that Ubuntu Bulamo begins with me. So each individual needs to make sure that they make a contribution to making Uganda better, because first of all, nobody wants any refugees in the West. Our African countries are too poor to even house refugees. I wouldn't want to be a refugee because of a crisis that we have been looking at.
Let me ask you, Mr. Kamara, what is it that the president has done that is going to change in the police? Because he said the police has criminal elements, and the police is part of the state. So if I have a state that has criminal elements, there are precipitating factors that create that criminality within the police. What measures has the president taken or undertaken to stop that criminality in the police?
He has fired, he has incarcerated.
And then I am right. He should actually pay me for having told him that we're being killed by the state. But the point I'm talking about, these people are susceptible to corruption because they are badly paid. They are badly treated. They are dehumanized as police officers, notwithstanding the risks they undertake.
Okay, good. But
before you work on that, what are you going to do to stop that criminality?
Good, but maybe you can explain to us, if you can, the nexus between unemployment and criminality.
Yeah, you see, that's the point I was making at the beginning, is that when there's a problem, you have to do a deeper analysis of the problem. The biggest challenge is when you have people who are quick to deal with the consequences of the problem. So in the case of our situation now, with the criminality that has been escalating, one would have to go back and say, what are the root causes? I think Medad just talked about our democracy deficit. If people feel like we don't have any other option on how we can compete for political power, and in a way that is fair, and everybody is treated fairly, many people are going to start responding differently. If you think of the current economic situation, because we are a country that is really hurting economically, the economic burden that we are shouldering, the tax burden, the debt burden, the frightening levels of unemployment, all these breed tendencies that can easily translate into crime. Thirdly, that you are dealing with institutions. The institutions, I think, I always tell people that one of President Museveni's biggest achievements was to create a dispensation that allowed the emergence of institutions. But all these institutions are suffering under his regime survival politics because they cannot graduate beyond him, so he becomes the institution. So the citizens no longer have trust in the institutions that they will address your problem. I can tell you, me as a lawyer, I don't want to have a situation where I have to go to court because I don't know whether the courts can deliver justice to me. I don't want to have a situation that requires me to go to the police because I don't trust the police. John, I can tell you that there are many people like me who have lost confidence in all these institutions. And even when we in Parliament there, I don't know whether Medad you were there. I was so surprised that in a crisis that we are facing, that the president comes and talks casually, and then members of Parliament are behaving in a manner that you ask yourself, do these people feel what we the citizens are feeling? Even at the State of the Nation address, the president said, I am abolishing bail. And MPs are clapping. This is a constitutional matter. The president is there in front of the parliament where MPs are supposed to be the defenders of the constitution. The president is there openly abrogating the constitution and MPs are clapping. And then he's addressing the issue of security, talking about the same thing about bail. And, you know, they are all clapping and laughing casually. And I'm like...
And quite a big number even absent.
Yeah. And it's like, do these guys actually feel the pain that we are feeling? So, in other words, I think that's why I would want to emphasize the point that Maria is saying, that right now, I've argued that the president doesn't have to take the entire burden, because when you hear President Museveni speak, it's like the whole burden of securing this country is on me. I am the only one who can do that. And if you listen to him talking about his intervention in Entebbe, his intervention in the case of the LC chairperson who was killed somewhere, I think in eastern Uganda, it's like, yeah, when I appear there, things are okay. But you see, he can't be the police cop that can go across the country to secure all of us. So that's why I think that where we are as a country, I wish the president could have the humility and feel like, yes, I am one of these many Ugandans. I have a privileged position because I am president. I have all the resources around me. Actually, I can provide leadership and bring all these Ugandans together and say, guys, let's talk like men and women. Let's figure out what is the best way we can take this country forward from where it is now. But the idea that you can come and as commander-in-chief and say, I'll crush this one and crush the other one, no, it doesn't happen that way incidentally, because society is very complex, as he was, I think part of his story about the Batembuzi and the Chase was say, society has become more complex. And therefore, when it becomes complex, it requires collective wisdom to be able to deal with those complexities.
John, you want to respond?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. I've been listening very attentively to my other colleagues. I thank them for what they have said. I wanted to begin from the position of unemployment, hopelessness, and the speculative life that my sisters pointed out. I want us to be very reflective when we talk about unemployment in Uganda. The unemployment in Uganda is not unique to Uganda. We must reflect on the economic history of this country and the intervention of institutions like the World Bank, the Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, Clinton, what is it called, deregulation policies of the early 90s, 80s. All these have impacted on developing countries generally and has created unemployment eventually. The deregulation policies which we adopted as a condition to get support, donor support from financial institutions have had a long-term effect, and these are some of them. The deregulation policy, for example, meant that, for example, private investment, free flow of capital, expropriation of capital from a country, profits from a country, have not significantly provided for reinvestable capital within those countries to which those policies have applied, to the extent that there has been economic growth sufficient enough to cope with population growth, because profits have been always expropriated. And I can tell you this, Honorable Segona can bear witness to this, that if you read, for example, our investment code, CAP 92, it conforms to that kind of policy.
So you don't believe in this steady progress thing?
No. Therefore,
so there's no steady progress.
No. Listen to me. These are things you must be patient and you get.
Yes, because that's what
the question is. The question is, government has all along been trying against all these odds to make sure that the country moves, and we must break away from some of these policies. And those who understand
but I think John, you are misleading our audience.
No. Yes. Just can you listen to me as I listen to you? So that is one aspect of the matter. That it is not only unique to Uganda. If you go to Kenya, there is unemployment. If you go to Tanzania, you go and read the statistics. Okay. It is not that it's okay. I'm not saying it is okay. I'm only reporting a fact of economic policy which has been imposed over the years. For example, the president was also very clear when he talked about power on the day when the budget presentation, when he said even they wanted to take over capital development from government, in that it should be provided by donors, and we said no. You remember?
But it's the president.
So here you are, that the developed world or the World Bank and so on has not been very much with us, and therefore did not see, and these are the effects. And therefore we now need, and this is what we are coming to, we now need to make a paradigm shift. So this is a very serious
there are low-hanging fruits that could help Uganda, like agriculture, like tourism. If you invested in there, that could maybe get people out of poverty.
Yes,
that is how
I am trying to tell you that those investments can be there. But as long as, listen to me, as long as the laws allow investments to be investment returns to be expropriated, and free flow of investment, and investment seed capital just comes from outside, is invested, and then is repatriated.
Okay.
You do not expect
Dr. Nasali.
growth.
Can I ask a question? Now that we admit that we have youth unemployment, and the youth are idle, and they use social media to vent, and in fact it's about gossiping, how would the taxation and monitoring of social media help the situation, help security, or redeem the hopefulness of youth?
I don't understand. What do you mean by monitoring of social media?
One of the measures that was put in the 9-point program was monitoring of social media, because it incites insecurity. But the majority of social media is about gossip.
Are you sure?
That's what the president.
Gentlemen, and Dr. Nasali, let's take a break, and when we come back, we can get to this point.
John has a lot to explain.
We shall dig deep when we come back. Back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Honorable Resu, Dr. Nasali, Honorable Segona, and Mr. Timoshabi. You know, when a high-profile person is killed in this kind of this wave of criminality, that's when we have seen, you know, the president proposes all these measures, but before that, you remember that we had lost so many other people. Is that fair?
I think Kamara, it's not right to say so. It's not right to say so because these are all enhancements which come over time. It does not mean concern was not in the previous cases. To say so doesn't flow. For one reason, investigations have also been taking place over those other matters which we are imagining were not being taken seriously because
the president says, I was not taking these things close, I don't know which word he used, but until when they killed the Major Kigundu and AIGP.
Yeah, he said so.
Yeah.
He said so because...
But before that, so many Ugandans had been killed.
Yeah, he said so because I think it is because in his mind, he's seeing the trend continuing. So we must put in new measures additional to enhance what is happening. Not necessarily to mean those other killings were not of consequence. That would be too foolhardy. I think everybody matters in this country and he cares.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, it's only human. It's like saying, Mr. Moderator, it's only like saying you skidded as you moved. You continue. Then you continue skidding again. Then you say, now what should I do really to stop?
Which is what you have been doing.
So this does not mean you did not skid and you did not regret it.
You know,
but now when you see it continuing, then you say we must get other measures. It looks these other measures must be added.
Allow me to bring in some Ugandans who have been watching this broadcast and they are calling in and they want to just maybe tell us their views. Sometimes we can be on this table and we think we're making sense, yes, but we don't want to make sense to ourselves, but we also want to involve Ugandans. So let me take the very first call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Stephen from Kiwatule.
Kiwatule, you're on air, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The issue of crime in Uganda comes at a time when people are tired of President Museveni.
When they have just elected him president?
Yes, but you know that the majority whom the doctor was saying who are below 30 years, 80% of Ugandans are below 30 years and they don't want President Museveni. But the issue is, in case we get another president, is he going to overhaul the whole system, put new police in place, new army in place, new parastatals in place, and because the same people, the Godbars, would actually become the ministers. God by himself wants to build a house. He wants to drive a good car, as much as he's doing it even now. And that is the vicious cycle, which is not only specific to Uganda, but other countries. I'm glad you're discussing those issues, and you are feeling bitter of your country. It's good. Even the Banyangwe have a saying that Elisho no kwera. But I want to assure you that there is no country that is free of crime. It is only the degree. Now Uganda is just been experiencing crimes here and there just because people are tired of this presidency. But I want to assure you that even if God becomes the president of Segona tomorrow, the same crime can even be more than what it is now. Okay. And I want Segona to tell me what he would do if he becomes the president and there is crime.
Okay, thank you very much. Our caller there from Kiwatule, you spoke with a lot of clarity, even though you gave us the Kinyankole proverb. I think maybe we can use the services of Godbar to...
It was also clear.
Tell us that. Well, let me pick 2 or 3 more so that we can respond to them, and then we continue with the program. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ginger. I'm called Patrick.
Patrick, you're on air.
Yes, please. Now, my brother, I'm even ashamed of somebody coming on an honorable MP, eh? Hello?
Honorable Eresu John.
Yeah.
Why are you ashamed?
I'm ashamed.
Why?
He's my MP in the village there. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We are hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, now, for Mr. Museveni to be the president, and he allowed himself to become so low as to be supported by people who can reason like my brother there, is very shameful.
What is it that has angered you in the reasoning of Honorable John Eresu?
No, I'm hearing his reasoning is really very childish. Really.
I'm asking you to pick one thing that you're not happy with.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, sir.
One thing I'm not happy with is supporting everything about Museveni. He's not even, he cannot advise our president.
Support is not a problem. Is it a problem?
Yeah, I mean, we should be reasoning freely, such that we can even offer the president advice where possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Our caller from Ginger. Let me take two more callers, and then my panelists will wrap it up. I have a call online. Hello. Hello. Okay, I think that one, I'm going to drop that line because somebody is listening themselves and it's sending an echo into the studio, so I'm picking another caller. Hello.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Oh, yes, it is so saddening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Nabukenya Hamida. I'm calling from Chanja.
Okay, Nabukenya.
Yes, it's so saddening that everything is capitalized. People go for debates only to applaud the president because they expect an envelope or they expect a golden handshake. It is so saddening and shameful. And the issue of security is like, I would imagine when they say the IGP wasn't acting well, where was the president and the other people? So when he calls for a special meeting, it means they have failed. Something is not right, because you cannot be in a house where you have a son and they come up the next day, they're like, your son is a murderer, and you're like, really? He has been in my house? Like you don't know, and you're the head of that family? It is so saddening. I mean, we are so ashamed of our country. Some of us are so young for these things, and we are not proud of our country. I'm sorry.
Now, Kenya, please regain your pride for Uganda, because we have only one country called Uganda, and we are in it together. We have to redeem it.
You can see the pain.
Okay, I can feel it. But our time is almost out. So what I'm going to do is to ask, beginning from you, Mr. Godbert Mushabe, to make your concluding remark. Also, maybe if you can react to some of the submissions we've had from the people.
No, I mean, in spite of all that is happening, I really want to give assurance to my sister Nabu Kenya that at the end of the day, no matter what these politicians do, no matter the flexing of muscles, we all have to acknowledge and actually make a decision that this is our country. All of us are equal shareholders, no matter what everybody else does. And therefore, we must remain committed that we have to make this country better. Secondly, is to appeal to the president that it takes humility, it takes statesmanship to be able to, step out of the closet and respond to reality. That the reality that we have now as a country is that the country is paining. People are at pain, and we are experiencing extraordinary situations here that requires extraordinary actions. And I think that cannot be just the president being the one to worry about all that that has to be done. And so I would want to appeal to the president to step out of that closet and lead, and actually summon the will of the people, of the citizens, and say we are going to have to work together to address the current situation. And finally, is basically to appeal to ourselves as a country that it is our collective responsibility. And I think we can exercise collective wisdom as a people, that every time we have had these kinds of situations, whether it was Idi Amin's time, whether it was the early 80s when we had these kinds of crises, Ugandans would come together in many different forms and overcome situations like this. And I think this is the moment when we need to appeal to our collective wisdom as a people and come together and talk about the future of this country, and where everybody lives in security, and we could get conditions for shared prosperity.
Thank you. Honorable Segona.
Thank you very much. Godba has made a very important point. The president needs to add one value: selflessness. He must stop thinking about himself alone. He should put himself on the weighing scale, this side, and then Uganda the other side. I am told that even during the days of Idi Amin, we had a police system. Ugandans would still run to the police. That was not a sign of confidence. Even in times of frustration, people will run to the police. My sister Nabukenya has asked a very important question. If Kayihura had failed in all this, where was the president? Kayihura has been so far the longest serving IGP. 13 years. If he was that incompetent, and his president was not incompetent, okay? He was corrupt and nobody else was corrupt. He was bad and everybody else was good. How did he serve for 13 years? Now my brother John Eresu blames the IMF etc. That confirms to me that the president has defaulted on every promise he made, including the 10-point program, because one of the things he promised us, and maybe to earn our support during the war, was a self-sustaining economy. Just yesterday, Uganda received approval from Parliament to borrow, I think was it 300 billion, to feed its soldiers. In a self-sustaining economy, with the steady progress we are making, we borrow to feed our soldiers.
But
and my brother
you are borrowing at the end of the budget cycle?
Yes, because that is the approval they received. I mean, between now and the next financial year, do you want the soldiers to starve? No. I wish the president could go back and read again the budget that Honorable Kasaija presents for him. He would refocus. I think we can give our support to the president, because you see, security is for us all.
Yes.
I am one of the biggest consumers of security, because at least I have a jacket to protect, I have a car to protect, I have a wife to protect, I have children to protect. And I'm duty bound, at least by morality, to render my support to the president, to the government, in providing security to my country. I have lost friends like Abiliga, etc. I don't want to lose more. But one important thing the president must do, because somebody asked, Segona, what would you do if crime happened? First of all, I would not allow crime to happen the way it is happening. Crime is happening because people do what they are not supposed to do. And I told the IGP Kale Kayihura, I met him twice when he was IGP for 13 years. And in my last meeting, when we were discussing these Tojukwatako meetings, I told him one thing: you will secure this country if you stop doing politics. The president must withdraw our security officers from politics.
Okay.
He should come and tussle out with us politically. The security men, the men in uniform, should remain where they are. I'm talking about Brigadier Kakabajenda, Koso Chola, Kanduho, etc. They should remain in the barracks and provide me with security. For political guidance, they should listen to me when I take over. They should let me take over if democracy allows me to take over.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Nasali.
I think after all this fracas, one thing that has come out, which is very clear, is the limitation of force and abuse of power. So any person with authority now should know that when they abuse that power, and that power is lifted away from them, they will be naked and face the brunt of the law. But a law which probably they have violated.
Could be brunt of illegality.
Yeah, but which probably they have violated. But at the end of the day, there still need to be rules of the game that people agree to, that they will be guided for prosperity. Even with the 6 years war, Bush war, after that, we came to Parliament, we made a constitution for over 5 years and another 3 years, maybe 8 years, because we needed to establish rules of the game. So at the end of the day, it's in everybody's best interest to abide by the law.
Honorable Resu.
Thank you very much. To me, I think what I can say is this. First of all, to reply to my other brother from Ginger, that I'm not making a reasoning. I should advise the president. I think he needs to interact more with me to know more who I am, and then he knows exactly what he's talking about. I think what is important for Uganda, in my opinion, is that we first must look at ourselves as one people. One people in the sense that
like one Uganda, one people.
We must have a common. No, no, no. I'm talking.
Welcome aboard.
No, listen to me. I'm not sloganeering. I'm saying that we must look at ourselves as one people, as people of Uganda.
That's not a slogan, definitely.
And as people of Uganda, there are certain things which must hold us together. And one of them is security.
Okay.
And we should not politicize security. We should not create partisan thinking into security issues, because it affects all of us. It affects all of us. Number two, when a president takes a lead, it does not mean our roles have been underestimated or ignored.
And when he misleads?
He's only taking a lead because the duties on his the Lubengo is carrying demands as such.
Thank you.
Number three, I won't conclude like this. These are criminal elements, and this, in any society, like the other brother from Kiwatule said it, they are bound to be there in every society. It is our responsibility to find out that these criminals do not take advantage of us.
All right.
And finally, this country has a lot of prosperity. This country has a lot of prospects. This country has a lot of hope for the future. We are sowing the seeds for the future. And we must really make sure we gather ourselves together to make sure that these seeds grow into a big tree and Uganda prospers after us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Dr. Nassali. I appreciate your insights on the matter. And maybe to conclude is that I believe it's a responsibility of all of us Ugandans to also add what we could in keeping our country safe. Maybe we should also give it to them, for those who have been managing the affairs of our country for 32 years. It's not a small achievement to have that kind of stability for
maybe
32
years. It is the reason we are suffering.
Yes, it's not a small achievement, but I believe Ugandans are saying we deserve better. So we have one country. Let us try to maybe live with the message of hope that maybe tomorrow Ugandans will overcome. We have had timeless times and always been able to overcome such things. Good night and God bless Uganda.